everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I have an incredible guest here today, Charlie Freak, who's just a wealth of information, so amazing, has so much wisdom and so much knowledge to share about what's happening in the world today. So I am so excited and thrilled to have you here today, Charlie. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about all the things I want to ask you about, if we get through all of those things. How about the mask, Charlie? What are your thoughts about, is it possible that the mask wearing is an initiation into the system, Antichrist system? And here's why I say that. Because the masking itself is like the pulling away of your old identity. And the washing your hands is like washing away your behaviors and your habits and your values and your beliefs. And isolating from your friends and your family. And again, just putting this separation between the life that you had and what's coming. And also the standing 6 feet apart, because we know that in satanic rituals, they stand 6 feet apart. And we're standing in these circles of the 6, which is standing with Satan, and is, in my view, apart from Christ. So I don't know, what do you think about this idea?
Oh, you explained it so beautifully. You really did. That's beautiful, and that is true. So with the mask wearing, essentially, that's kind of a long way of putting it, but I thought it was really important for everyone to understand these words, like asking and understand and overstand versus understand. So, but where you wear a mask, the mask is the symbol of the Greek Persephone. And you're playing a role. It is not you. And so as for someone that has your educational background and the things that you have done in your own experience, you know this all too well, that the average person in their lifetime will never, ever come to truly know themselves. We build up so much emotional baggage and so many events that we then hold on to, and we think that they define us, that after a while we just think that there's so many embarrassing or horrific things in our past that we refuse to go back. We refuse to stop, turn, and look back and observe what really happened and get a feel for who we were and what we've become. So most people will only ever do this, which is just the blinders, and then they blindly go on and on and on as a slave, because it's never you. Persephone mask. And that's the whole problem with the mask wearing. When you put a mask on, somebody else tells you, then what they're saying to you is that I'm demanding you not be you. And I demand you to be somebody else. And of course, when we wear a mask, when we observe their request, then we're standing under them again. You see, so we've understood what they've said, and we put the mask on. So once again, we're standing under these people. So this is the great trick, as you so beautifully identified. And by the way, folks, this is what Luciferianism really is. Lucifer is light, but it's the wrong light. And here's the whole problem with our organized world. They tell us that everything is out there. That there's a universe that's ever expanding out there. There's no God, and there's just infinite galaxies with infinite planets and infinite stars and infinite suns and infinite moons. And there's so many that you're nothing but a speck of dust, and you'll come and go. There were the dinosaurs, now there's us, and we're screwing up left, right, and center. So clearly we're going to go, and then it'll probably be the bats from China, and maybe it'll be their turn and stuff. This is the great lie of our entire history of mankind, because the truth of the matter is there has never been a moment on this earth without mankind, because if we don't exist, none of this exists. This all exists because we are the miracle creation of the Creator. So however you want to see that, however you want to view that, I promise you that this is the truth. We are the pinnacle. And the body is an amazing creation, but the human skull and what's held inside, and in particular, this mind inside of the two temples, is magic, beautiful white magic beyond description. So there has never, ever, ever, ever been a time on earth without us in our current form. So we didn't evolve from monkeys or pond scum or anything like this. We have always been here. We have always been like this. And by the way, one of the problems that we get with like dime store Buddhism or dime store Hinduism, where people kind of think they know and they buy these books that never really tell the truth. People think that this allegory from Krishna and Buddha, that if you were to harm another form of life, that you would come back in your next life as that form. So if you stepped on a bug, you may very well come back in your next life as a bug. You're mankind. You will always be mankind. You will never come back as a bee. And not that there's anything wrong with a bee. They're beautiful, amazing, and wonderful. But you are mankind, whether you're a man or a woman. That's why we have 50-50 in terms of our DNA, so that we can play. One time it might be masculine, next it might be feminine. But you'll always be a man. That's what we are. And this is the thing. We have to start taking the gift that has been given to us, which is the highest of all gifts. And we have to start taking this seriously. And if you wear a mask because somebody else told you to, then you're not taking this seriously at all. And so you would say, yes, but if I don't, they could fine me. And the fines are very expensive, or they could literally cart me off to jail. Well, let them cart you off to jail, because at least you'd be living your life in an honest fashion. Because the moment you put a mask on, you are a prisoner. You are in a prison cell. It's just that they've made the prison cell here, and that you are your own warden. You're the own prison guard and warden of your own prison. That's the prison of the mind. And that's where they've got us, my friends. That's where they have us. TV, movies, newspapers, magazines, New York Times bestsellers list, books, novels, all of these things are being written with a singular narrative, a singular purpose, which is to tell you everything that is real is out there. And the best that we can do is suffer through it and just try and do our best. And then what do Western Christian churches teach? They say you get one kick at the can, and that, your life probably is probably a horrific life, but don't worry about it. Even though it's your one and only life, when you die, the meek shall inherit the earth, and things get really good for you when you die. And that's insane. And in the Bible, what does Jesus say about God, and what do all of these various passages say about God? God is the God of the living, not the dead. You have to live. This is about living. This is not preparing your whole life to die. And when you wear a mask, you're preparing yourself to literally die.
Wow, Charlie, that's so beautifully said, and I couldn't agree with you more. I love what you said, that people aren't taking this seriously if they are letting, people control them or mask their divinity. And I also understand that some people are just not conscious that that's what they're doing. And so, hence talking about it here and wherever that message can get out. But having said that, the loss of power, I know that, I'm from Canada. I know that you've lived in Canada. You and Colleen have lived here as well. And I do find that is a very prominent theme here in Canada. We've had a kind of lifestyle that's very permissive. There's not a lot of centricity around a divine creator. Not for everybody, of course, and there is definitely, kind of a compliance with what we've been told. And I guess having said that, I'm just kind of wondering what are your words or your thoughts for Canadians to pull them out of this delusion and help them to see that they've always had their power. They're giving their power up so freely. I mean, I know it's not everybody. For sure, there are so many Canadians right now that are very entrenched in the narrative that has been told to them and don't have that confidence in their immune system, their divinity, in the miraculous creation that they are. So do you have any words for Canada?
You bet. First off, I was born and raised in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, and it is a gorgeous, gorgeous community. And I was very fortunate to grow up in a place called Cadboro Bay, so very close to UVic, and
Right.
very magical. And I walked everywhere, ran everywhere, rode my bike everywhere, and so Colleen and I are just two very humble kids from Canada, and most Canadians we're kind of a quiet and a humble people. And I think that the powers that be have always noticed that about Canada, and they've played that against us. And so what they've done is, by controlling us via our taxation, which, by the way, none of it goes to the government. If you think your taxes are going to pay for your governmental services, you're going to find out in 2021 that has all been a massive lie. And if any of you are still, thinking in terms of liberals and conservatives or NDP or something like that,
Right.
None of that exists. That's all just an illusion for you to believe that you have some form of freedom. You don't. It's a system that a few own, and for the many to go along with it, we have to feel like we have some kind of say, we have some kind of voice in it, and we don't. So about 11 years ago, Colleen and I, living in Canada, got to a point where, and I came from a financial background. I have 3 different university degrees, one of which is a master's in business administration, and what it teaches you is that you're an idiot and that you don't know anything. So if some of you think that I know some things, it's only because I actually came to a point of saying, wow, I don't know anything. I've spent so many years in university. I have all of these different degrees, and I literally don't know anything that is the truth. And so what Colleen and I both had to do, it's very painful to do this, but at least we had the wherewithal to do it. And that is, we stripped away the lies. And so basically what we did is we said, we can only accept things as truth if we experience them for ourselves. And if we can't, then we're uncertain, we're unclear about that. But we're no longer going to just take somebody's word for it. Because it's an incredible thing. For all of you parents, I want you to just wrap your heads around this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You're sending your kids for a long, long time to really organize daycare so that you can work. That's essentially what it is. And then they throw the education in for free, and the amount of truth that's being handed out in public school, and it doesn't matter, Canada could be virtually anywhere in the world, they dole truth out with an eyedropper. And then the mishmash of lies and hearsay, boy, they're dumping, they got a fire hose and they're pouring that on your kids all day long. And I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
They're not teaching you the truth. And one of the things, I won't get into it right now. If you want to deal with it later in the show, we can. But just this difference between electricity and magnetism,
For sure.
the whole of you and the whole of our journey and our whole purpose is to understand the difference between the electrical world and the magnetic world. That's why none of us really know who Nikola Tesla was, and why Tesla was not allowed to have any kind of mainstream influence with his teachings. 100 years ago, we had a chance to go to the right with Nikola Tesla, and instead they forced us to go to the left and Albert Einstein. And to the left-hand path is this path of theories where nothing can be proven and nothing still has been proven. And it is a system of war, of pestilence, of violence, of greed, and now lust, and now absolute utter confusion. And Nikola Tesla was a man of God. And Nikola Tesla taught magnetism. Nikola Tesla studied scalar waves, which are the eternal eight, versus an electrical wave, which is a downward causation, and it's a transverse wave, which means that it dies. Electricity will only sustain itself for so long, and then it is drained and it dies until such time that it is recharged and it is reborn again. And so with electricity, you die, you're born, you live, you die, you're born, you live, you die. Does that sound like something? That kind of sounds like that samsara, that big
I was going to
wheel.
say, it sounds like the samsara. Yeah, over and over.
Over and over.
And I've heard you, Charlie. Yeah, that's brilliant. And I've heard you, Charlie, speak about the place where the temporal meets the eternal. And what is that state? What do you call that state? And how does one, maybe this is a bit hard to ask or answer, how does a person achieve that?
It is what we said earlier, back to your question of masks, and how everything about a mask is standing unveiled, and you're not taking yourself and you're not taking the gift of life seriously when you can be so easily bullied. And again, folks, just really quickly, this because you know that all of your politicians are corrupt. I mean, that, no matter who. And by the way, when you guys find out everything that I know about Trudeau, you're going to be horrified beyond description. So I know there's a lot of Canadians that don't like Trudeau and think that he's a liar and that he's a bit of an immoral person. You have no idea. You have no idea what's coming, and it will come, and the evidence will be there as well to prove it. You're just talking about demons.
Yeah. It's funny. In my own research, I actually uncovered, I think it was the Pierre Elliott Foundation of where the future is going. In 2015, I uncovered the document. Actually, the second page was a pedophile symbol, a boy lover pedophile symbol, the whole page, where we are going. And that was pretty eye-opening for myself to experience as well. Yes, I know that he's being really examined right now by the ethics board, and that there's other issues involved as well. And there's still a lot of Canadians who really, really do trust the government, which is why I brought up this sort of Canadian mindset that tends to prevail. That's good to know. That's definitely good to know. And I love what you say about how we're looking so much on we've been trained, we've been deceived to look outside of ourselves, and we continue. Some people are just so entrenched in that we just continue to do it over and over again, and we forget the inner, as you say, the inner world, the inner standing. We forget that we have the answers inside of us, and we believe that it's too hard. Sometimes we believe that it's too hard. Anyway, I love what you said. Yeah. Do you want to add to that?
I was just going to interject about that as well. Folks, think about this as well. And common sense, just common sense. everything needs to be inside of each of us, not just like one of us and then the one who has that ability to see inside then shares it to every single person. It has to be inside of you. Here's why. If it's out there, then especially with something like outer space, everybody is so on. There's no evidence of aliens at all. There isn't. There's nothing. Oh, yes, there is, because Roswell in 1947. Well, I can share something with you today that is going to make your blood curdle about what Roswell and Area 51 really mean and what they're really about. So it's all hearsay. And this is what I was sort of just quickly tying in earlier about Trudeau and about governments, about trusting governments, and about your educational system, where it's just one person who's never experienced any of these things as a truth. They were just told it. So it's hearsay. And they were told it by someone who's never experienced it as a truth themselves. They were just told it by someone who's never experienced it as a truth, but they were just told it by some. And you just keep going back, and you go far enough back. Really? Our educational system, founded by Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, these are not two of the nicest families, and responsible for all aspects of the world and how we do farming, agriculture, educating. All things are all through their principles. If you go back to a system of hearsay, where we trust these people in positions of power because they must be good people because they're in positions of power. What if they're not? And then an entire society can be built upon a lie, and it's all perpetuated by blindly trusting figures of authority. And what if these figures of authority were in actuality the worst demons of all, and that they all are, so that not one of them can ever tattletale on another, because then they'll go down. So they're all kind of in it together. And then what would they have to do? What would they have to do that would be so bad that if we found out, that would be it? There's no second chances. There's no forgiveness. It's not cheating on your wife or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. That doesn't even matter anymore. I mean, that's pretty much par for the course for everyone. Everybody just is so unhappy in their life. They're all looking to just cheat and fake their way through life anyways. So it would have to be something horrific. And that's kind of what's behind all of this. And we don't have to get into that right now. But But the system that they're selling you is hearsay. And you just need to wrap your head around that, is that it's hearsay. And that we send our kids for all these years to a system that requires compliance. So they're not interested in teaching the truth. They're not interested in creating Sherlock Holmes or Miss Marples or Hercule Poirot's. They don't want you thinking with your frontal lobe. Right. It's all about the midbrain, and it's all about the lower brain, which is that reptilian function of fear. It's flight or fight mechanism, and that is low consciousness and lower thinking, and that's what the entire system perpetuates. So then you do this. So like you were saying, what's the difference between, how do you transition from, where does temporal meet eternal, and how do we achieve that? Well, it'll never happen if you're constantly making decisions out of your lower brain, or if you're just completely lazy and indifferent in your midbrain. Because unless you get to that frontal lobe, then you really don't know much of anything. You don't, because you're just taking the word of somebody else for everything. And the frontal lobe will never let you do that. The frontal lobe does not allow you to be permissive and lazy and just accept the words of others. So the first thing is we would have to go to the frontal lobe. How do you get there? There's no access to the frontal lobe from your left brain. The left brain, which is facts, figures, and logic, and it's thinking, is exclusively in the midbrain or that lower reptilian brain. It's your right hemisphere of the brain that has access to the frontal lobe. And you see, the right brain is that creative brain, is that daydreamer's brain, is that philosopher's brain, is that artist's brain, is that meditation brain. It is that brain that considers all possibilities and opens themselves to all things. And then anything is possible. The left brain doesn't believe in the right brain. The left brain doesn't believe in a metaphysical world. The left brain says, this is it. The computer and the desk and the chair, this is all that there is. And you just have to do your best. So you see, the left brain is that Luciferian agenda out there. It's all out there, and that we have to comply. And you see, that's the ego of the left brain, isn't it? The ego of the left brain has a job, and that job is to keep you submissive. So you see how this works in the favor of the ruling class, the ruling elites. Those people know that they don't need prison cells. That doesn't work. Gulags, systems of gulags don't work. All it does is it infuriates people to a point where they will rebel against it. So what you do instead is you give them the illusion of democracy, the illusion of freedom of choice, and the illusion of that you could be anything you want to be if you just work hard enough or try hard enough. And that just isn't true at all. So, and that's the left brain. And the left brain, its job of the ego is to trap you there, because then it's in charge. And the only way, so like you say, where does the temporal world of electricity, which is a downward causation, where does it meet the eternal? The eternal is magnetism, and magnetism rises because it's the scalar wave, which is the 8. So it's constantly rising, returning back because no one left behind, and then it's rising, and it constantly returns because no one left behind. It's rising, and that's what it is. And of course, with the number 8, there's no beginning, there's no end, there's only perpetual motion. And you see, science scoffs and laughs at the concept of perpetuity or perpetual motion, but of course it does exist, and they absolutely know it exists. And by the way, you talk about conspiracy and conspiracy theories. Here's the biggest one that nobody ever talks about. You can get a degree in virtually any college, university, and almost anything else in any subject. You could probably get a master's in the poetry of 1950 auto mechanics. I mean, it's so ridiculous and so esoteric about what you could get a degree in. But what's the one thing that colleges and universities don't teach and won't give you a degree in? Magnetism. They don't want us knowing about magnetism. And the reason is because everything is a choice. God gifted us free will for a reason, which is that everything is a choice. So when you think about our lives, what's the one thing that clearly most people would agree upon that we don't have any choice in? And that's having to die, right? So man is mortal, and we all die. And Charlie, if you say otherwise, you're a kook, you're a nut. But you see, all of these ancient scriptures, they're all teaching us and telling us about eternal life.
Right.
And the people will then say, yeah, but that's a religious thing. You have to die. And then no. It's not. You die, and then it's like your spirit, or I don't really know. It bores me to death, so I don't really read it. But no, it's not. No, what those books are all talking about, all of them are all talking about, is how you, in the physical form, live forever by constantly regenerating yourself. That's what the word resurrection means. Resurrection of Jesus Christ to become Christ Jesus is just electricity to magnetism.
Right.
Because Jesus rose to the right-hand side of the Father in heaven upon earth. Now, you're going to love this, folks. I'll pass this back over to you in just a sec, but just listen to this little play upon words that should tell you everything. Heaven upon earth. Where is heaven? Heaven is in your head. And to get to the head, you have to heave upwards to the heat of the head, which is the top. And that is your heaven. So heave, head, heap, heaven, they're all the same word. They all mean the same thing, which is to exalt ourselves up. And how do we get up? Magnetism rises. Electricity is a downward causation. So when we live via the left hemisphere of the brain, when we live exclusively an acidic life, then we will surely know death. And that's what everybody sort of sees around them. And we'll all agree, if you're in this day and age, if you live to 65, you're lucky. And that's just crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And magnetism is an eternal wave, and it's constantly rising, which is this regeneration. And that's where this gnosis of casting thy net to the right comes from, because to the right is east, and the sun is constantly rising and re-rising every day in the east. And so if we cast ourselves to the rising sun every single day, then every single day we will be regenerated. And so when you begin to read these ancient documents from a scientific perspective, from a philosophical perspective, and even from a mathematical perspective, suddenly you begin to see, wow, these books are genius beyond a description, because it's not a history book. They're not talking to you about some passive event that happened, 2 or 3 or 5 or 6,000 years ago. They're not. These are all anecdoted stories about something else, and that something else is us, and about this whole process of getting out of the electrical left brain, which is a circuit, and getting into the right brain, which is a field. See, magnetism is a field, and electricity is created in circuits. The circuit, Galilee, literally means, the circuit. And so this is the greatest story that's been hidden from us, because if magnetism was ever taught, the first thing we would know is that there is magnetism within us, and that's that kundalini that the Eastern cultures all talk about and all honor, which is the sacred feminine mother, and the mother is magnetic. So the father is stillness and silence, the mother is constant motion, which is magnetism, and the child is the friction between the contact of the mother and the father. So if the father is dielectricity, which is stillness and silence, not moving, and the mother, who's in love with the father, is constantly moving about, then this contact between a moving force and a stationary object creates friction. Look in any book, an encyclopedia, or even technical manual about what electricity is. They'll all tell you the exact same thing. Electricity is friction. And that is the child.
Amazing. I love it. I love the way you put that, and it's such an interesting way of looking at things. And I agree with you, Charlie. I mean, the holy books, they're alchemy, they're numerology, they're psychology, they're truth. They're our truth, and they are really so multi-layered in as you say, genius way. I'm just wondering what your thought, because you talk about the scalar wave, and you talk about resurrection, and isn't that where we are right now? We've gotten so far away from the divine feminine, the divine masculine. I mean, so far, and even the whole Trinity working together as a unit. Isn't that what we're called for right now? Is this we need a massive resurrection of who we are, that has been lost and has been forgotten about by this deception of the Cabal, of the Illuminati, of the Luciferians. That has been just a slow burn over a number of years, to the point that people don't even realize it and kind of slip into it. But isn't that where we are? Aren't we right now in a time we need massive repentance, massive resurrection, massive awakening, which, by the way, is very, very exciting. It's not that doom and gloom story. It's the other side of the story. Look where we can go. Look what we can do. This is miraculous. This is, and Charlie, I know around me, some people don't even know this is happening. And, you know, my heart goes out to them too, because at the same time, there's all this fear, and people are drowning in the fear. They can't see this beautiful thing arising that we could all be going to, and there's so much hope towards. And you want to give that, you know, I want to give people that hope. And it's a tricky thing to do. It's almost like, you know, trying to sort of break down the narrative and question it for themselves, because you can't really tell somebody. You know, you have to kind of say, well, what do you think about this? This seems a little bit off. Or, you know, you can try to, but most times when people have that narrative locked, some switch that has to go off. Like they hear this podcast and maybe something earlier happened to them that they had an experience of. But this is the exciting part about it. We're at a time when we're, you know, we are living the Bible. We are living the Bible out in person, and this is just such an amazing time. So I don't know if you concur with that. Are we in this time of resurrection and rebirth?
I agree. You saw me nodding my head the entire time. I think that everything that you're saying is exactly right.
So Charlie, can you give us your thoughts on Donald Trump and the role that he's playing? Because as I understand from other videos, you feel like Donald Trump is a very misunderstood person. Can you explain that?
Yes, and what you said just before that was you said that all of this is very biblical and that we're living biblical times, and we absolutely are. This is that one point in time where we want to be alive. This is that time where we have the greatest chance of making a difference and a positive difference in this world. Which is miraculous, because for years we've had no input whatsoever, but now we are. So, you know, rip off the mask and get involved in this goodly, godly energy that is existing. So Donald Trump, massively misunderstood. Here's what I did to help people to understand this. And if you look at, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the book of Isaiah, it's a very fascinating book in and of itself, and it's quite a large book as well. Chapter 45 talks about King Cyrus, and King Cyrus was a golden king. He was a king with the golden touch. Donald Trump clearly is the king with the golden touch. And in the Bible, Cyrus was approached by God and asked by God to cleanse the lands because this land between Persia and Babylon had become infested, that it was dirty beyond description and it needed cleansing. That kind of sounds like draining the swamp, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
From the sort of the beginning, spring 2018 to early 2019, Donald Trump and this Q team, the team behind him, took down the entire evil network that has been against us for all of these years, especially the last 100 years. And this is every single country on earth. This is the Fortune 500 corporations, and then these are all of these evil agencies, such as the EU as well. And so what I did is I created the video and I called it The Takedown of the Cabal from A to Z. And I focused on these 26 major events of what Donald Trump did. And then this is all absolutely 100% true and accurate. And that's why the video that I created was tweeted and retweeted all the way up to Dan Benino, who is Donald's sort of like, press secretary, and another gentleman who works in the social media aspect for Donald Trump as well. And then these other aspects of the Q team within Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, they were all retweeting as well. And we're to tell each and every one of you that the cause for all of these wars isn't to conquer lands or to take over resources. They already own all of that stuff behind the scenes. It's to create to create separation of children from parents. And then these children are vulnerable and they can be swept up in large numbers, such as what the Clinton Foundation has been doing in Haiti. And why does Haiti keep getting hit by all of these hurricanes? Do they have a device that's able to direct hurricanes and these storms in a certain direction and push them into certain areas? It certainly appears that is the case. And then they're always waiting to come in, and then they're taking these children. So when I created the video, what I showed was from beginning to end. So the first one was with regard to Saudi Arabia, and then it was to Rome and the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church, and then it went to Israel, and then I just went 26 points. I went through everything. And what that shows us is that it's almost identical to reading Isaiah chapter 45 and the life of Cyrus. So there's no doubt that Donald Trump has been asked and is performing the duties of Cyrus. Now, think about this. Donald Trump is the 45th president of the United States. And the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, which is written thousands and thousands of years ago, is about Cyrus, who drained the swamp, who walked forcefully through the doors and forced everyone to capitulate.
Right. Something just
isn't that incredible?
That is so incredible. And I agree. Actually, I was just reading Isaiah, and I did, without you even saying that, I was phoning up my girlfriend and saying, "Oh my goodness, this is exactly what's happening. The fall of Babylon and all this kind of stuff." And even the 45 and the 4 + 5 = 9, which is Christ consciousness. So we're moving into Christ consciousness. In my opinion, we're moving into Christ consciousness. You can feel it. It's not even just a knowing, it's a feeling. You know what? Wanted to ask you, Charlie, some of that got lost, but I'll just recap a little bit that you were talking about, because I didn't hear a lot of either, but I'm going to just, bring some of that back, that you were talking about how Donald Trump has so much on the Cabal, tweets and videos and all kinds of facts and legal documents and all kinds of things. I know I'm not saying it as well as you. All of these people that have been involved have capitulated with him and are now working with him as opposed to working against him. That is incredible. That is fantastic news for all of us, and it should bring a lot of people hope for sure. I have a kind of interesting question for you. Yeah.
I was just going to introduce people so much hope, especially Canadians, because Canadians are very good-natured folks, and we do really care. We have good hearts, and we really do care that there is peace in the world and goodwill toward men. So the other thing that I want to just quickly share to everybody about Donald Trump is that he is absolutely, and he will go down in our real history as the peace president. And so you're already seeing this happen right now in the Holy Land. So so right after this, the first of these Lucifer bombs that went off in Beirut, a series, and it's spelled L, Lebanon, and then U and CIFER, because that's their agenda, the out there agenda, these Lucifer bombs. Okay. Right on the heels of that, 3 hours after the Lebanon bomb went off, Trump forced Netanyahu in Israel to accept responsibility for that bomb detonating. So that's once again showing the power that Donald Trump has, the power over, because Netanyahu is an agent of the Mossad. He's not really an elected representative for the Israeli people. But so within hours, Israel took responsibility for that, and then within days, there was this miraculous peace agreement between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, okay?
Yeah.
And this just came out of absolutely nowhere. And then what just happened, I announced this about 5 days ago saying that it was coming. And then I think officially, 2 days ago now, maybe 3 days ago now, was Bahrain. And that's right. So what you're going to see, and how brilliant is this, is that what Donald Trump is doing is that he's having Israel create all of these peace agreements with everyone around Palestine. And so they're all going to come online in basically like a semicircle around Palestine. And then when everyone else in the Middle East has made peace with Israel, Israel has made peace with everyone in the Middle East, then the only one left will be Palestine in a region that now has peace. And so it's kind of forcing the hand of both Israel and Palestine to say, I'm sorry, and we must work together. We must become brothers. We must become brothers and sisters, and we must work together. And that's exactly, I guarantee you 100%, this is exactly what is coming for the Middle East, and he'll do it in that way. And then I also happen to know that Donald Trump, that's why he has spent some time in India. Both he and Melania have talked a lot about how much they love their time in India and how much they love the Indian people. He's become very good friends with Modi. Modi is going to become this deal maker in the Far East. And so same thing, you have the age-old problems between India and Pakistan. And what we're going to see is India making peace deals with China first, and then everybody else, until what's left is Pakistan and India going, well, we have peace with everybody else. We need to make peace with each other. And then you're going to see these two ancient enemies shake hands, resolve their differences, and begin to be sisters and brothers and work together once again. And you're going to see from the Middle East to the Far East an entire region of friendship, of peace, of cooperation. This is Christ consciousness. This is that energy. This is the number 9. And again, so we're learning about this Q team, and that what Colleen and I have shared, that it's JFK Jr., that he is absolutely 100% guaranteed alive. He faked his death in 1999. He had to prepare for this.
Yeah.
And the letter Q is the 17th letter in the alphabet, okay? So really quickly, Donald Trump is the 45th president. 4 + 5 is 9, God consciousness or Christ consciousness. And his favorite president and John F. Kennedy Jr.'s father was JFK, who, by the way, was going to roll out Nasara, the principles of Nasara, in his second term. That's why he was doing those things at the end of the first term with regard to the silver certificates, creating an authentic currency again. And he's the 35th president. 3 + 5 is 8. 8 is that scalar wave, is that eternity. 35 JFK, 35th president. 3 + 5 is 8. Donald Trump, 45th president. 4 + 5 is 9. 8 + 9 equals 17. Q.
Amazing. I said I would talk a little bit about, not so much about your background at the end, but about the wonderful work that you and Colleen do with the Shire Animal Rescue Sanctuary. Just amazing, taking these animals in and our best friends in life and healing them and treating them and giving them life. I want to thank you for that for sure, and I'm sure everybody watching would do the same. I'm going to put up a link to the sanctuary so that people can donate and help you out with the animals. And I know you always say, don't stress yourself, but I mean, there's lots of options on there to donate a little bit to a lot. And it really helps when we help our little furry friends, we help each other as well. So I'll put a link up there, and I'll put a link up to your $150 on Lulu about the most important rock albums in history. Very, very interesting. That's another discussion that would be so thrilling to have. And also your Freak Sense TV on YouTube and Facebook. And if there are any other links that you want me to put up, just let me know after the podcast. I do want to thank you immensely. I know we had a lot of technical difficulties. We're going to see what we can do, piecing together this brilliant wisdom that you've shared today and your knowledge. And it's just, I've learned so much from you. I know our viewers will have learned so much for you. And I want to thank you so much for your time and for all of your energy that you give to humanity. It is just so appreciated right now. I can't tell you. So thank you so much. God bless. Namaste. It was wonderful.
Namaste.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you.
Thank you.